Welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Health Sciences, SOHS. Postgraduate Diploma in Geriatric Medicine, PGDGM, revised. MME 105 Clinical Geriatrics I. Block 1 Different Phase of Clinical Geriatrics. Unit 6 Geriatric Syndromes, 6.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, you should be able to enumerate components of geriatric syndromes and correlate the association between the different components. Describe various anatomical structures responsible for maintaining normal balance. List causes of vertigo. Differentiate central from peripheral vertigo. Outline approach towards dealing with an elderly person with vertigo. Define fall and recurrent falls. Discuss causes of falls and adapt a comprehensive approach towards management of falls. Explain dementia, delirium and urinary incontinence in association with geriatric syndromes. Describe causes, prevention and interventions for immobility. Explain concept of frailty and apply the knowledge for management of geriatric syndromes. 6.1 Introduction. You have already learnt about how elderly are different in the Unit 1 of this block. You must have realized that the elderly often have multiple ailments and presentations which are complex and varied. A syndromic approach to various systemic disorders has been well documented. We have come across clinical scenarios where comprehensive clinical management, rather than disease-based treatment, has achieved more rewarding benefits. Similarly, the term geriatric syndromes is a key terminology to describe, elaborate and emphasize the major health-related problems associated with aging, rather than learning causes of giddiness, falls and delirium separately. The term geriatric syndromes helps to understand their interrelationship in a better way. In this unit, you will be able to identify different components of geriatric syndromes, understand the physiology of gait, and know some interesting abnormalities of gait and balance. Vertigo has been described in coherence with falls. The other main syndromes, also described in other units, are dementia, delirium and urinary incontinence. Immobility deserves special attention, owing to challenges in the management. Frailty has been more elaborately discussed in comparison to earlier curriculum. After reading this unit, you should be able to grasp basic principles of comprehensive management of common geriatric problems and apply in clinical practice. 6.2 Definition and components of geriatric syndromes. Geriatric syndromes are health conditions common in older persons that result from the accumulated effect of multiple predisposing factors and that may be precipitated by an acute insult. The 6 components mentioned in Fig. 6.1 contribute to the spectrum of geriatric syndromes. A knowledge of these syndromes serves as a useful guide to manage commonly encountered geriatric problems in clinical practice. Fig. 6.1 Components of geriatric syndromes. Look at the screen. 6.3 Gait, balance and falls. In the following section, you will learn about the basic anatomical and physiological aspects of balancing. This knowledge will be useful in understanding several disorders of gait. Anatomical aspects of equilibrium. Fig. 6.2 Basic anatomical components for equilibrium. There are 2 basic anatomical components. Fig. 6.2. Supraspinal center. It signals when to start walking and when to stop, and also the speed of locomotion, size and direction of stepping. Spinal locomotor center. It controls elaborate walking patterns of muscle activity. The basal ganglia are involved in the initiation of walking and the quality of stepping, mediated through the cerebral cortex and brainstem. The cerebellum modulates rate, rhythm, amplitude and force of voluntary movement and finally regulates the stepping movements. The cerebral cortex maintains precision of the movements on the lower limbs. The corticospinal pathway, through its motor and sensory feedback mechanism, controls the voluntary walking cycle. The brainstem structures via the postural writing reflexes regulate the axial extensor tone. Physiological mechanism of gait. Balanced gait requires upright posture at the initiation of walking. Postural reflexes assist in maintaining equilibrium between the various musculoskeletal organs. The visual, vestibular and proprioceptive inputs conjointly generate these postural reflexes. The postural reflexes can be classified into 3 types as follows. 1. Automatic righting reflex keeps the head erect on the trunk. 2. Anticipatory postural reflex that preempts the forwardly movement during a disturbed movement. 3. Reactive postural response, as during rescue reaction or while preventing an injury. Example: outstretching the arm to prevent fall. Symptomatology of gait disturbance. Disturbances that occur in normal gait of a person give rise to impairment in activities of daily living. Sometimes these are so severe that injuries result from frequent falls, further compromising the health. Abnormal gait may go unnoticed by the patient. A geriatric or orthopedic consultation is sought only once a close relative notices it or when there is a significant bodily injury. Assessment of problem. Gait problems can arise due to abnormality at any of the following levels. A. Primarily motor caused by muscle weakness. B. Extrapyramidal dysfunction. C. Brainstem cerebellar pathway dysfunction. D. Proprioceptive sensory loss. A. Primary motor abnormality. A motor system abnormality results in a typical form of gait. Both stiffness and heaviness may be complained of if motor system is at fault. Spastic hemiparesis leads to equinorvarus deformity of the foot and toes scrape the ground. Weakness of dorsiflexion at ankle results in foot drop. Proximal muscle weakness is suggested when there is difficulty in climbing stairs or getting up from sitting position, especially squatting. Patients with GB syndrome present with proximal muscle weakness. Weakness of knee extension results in difficulty walking down stairs and occurs in femoral neuropathy. Distal muscle weakness in lower limbs is suggested when there is difficulty in holding the footwear, chappals. In upper limb weakness, there is inability to hold on to door handles or stair railings. Thus, the pattern of weakness hints towards the motor element contributing to gait disturbance. B. Extrapyramidal dysfunction. It presents with slowness of walking and limb stiffness resulting in shuffling with small shallow steps and freezing on finding an obstacle. C. Brainstem cerebellar pathway dysfunction. In disorders of the vermis, standing erect is difficult and severe ataxia results. Vestibular dysfunction results in swaying to the affected side. D. Proprioceptive sensory loss. In sensory ataxia, unsteadiness first occurs when walking in the dark due to lack of visual compensation for the proprioceptive loss. Patients are unable to feel the texture of ground and unaware of the position of their feet. Forward or backward falls suggest an impairment of postural reflexes. Spontaneous falls suggest multiple system atrophy or progressive supranuclear palsy. Types of abnormal gait. The above-mentioned abnormalities end up with a characteristic gait as described in Table 6.1. Table 6.1. Types of abnormal gait. Type of gait description. Hemiplegic gait. The patient holds the arm to one side and drags the affected leg in a semicircle, circumduction, due to foot drop and extensor. Hypotonia in lower limb. Neuropathic gait. Patient lifts the leg high during walking so that the foot does not drag on the floor. Myopathic gait. A drop in the pelvis on the contralateral side of the pelvis while walking. Trendelenburg sign. Ataxic gait. Clumsy, staggering movements with a wide-based gait. Parkinsonian gait. The whole upper extremity is in flexion with the fingers extended. The patient walks with slow little steps, marche a petit pas. The patient may show an involuntary inclination to take accelerating steps, known as festination. Sensory gait. In an effort to know when the feet land and their location, the patient will slam the foot hard onto the ground in order to sense it. Cautious gait. It is a gait that results as a precautionary measure to prevent injuries resulting from falls and involves a combination of various voluntary protective measures. Clinical examination of posture and gait. It is very important to clinically assess different aspects of gait. Vital information about the involvement of underlying system is obtained. We can inspect the patient during stationary position and during walking. Gait examination is difficult in cases with motor weakness and during or after an acute neurological problem. The Table 6.2 is useful for the examination of gait. Table 6.2. Clinical examination of posture and gait. Special maneuvers. These are required to elicit subtle cerebellar ataxia. The patient has to walk in a straight line with the heel to toe, tandem gait. A. Romberg test. It involves testing balance while standing with feet approximated together. The examiner must be vigilant enough to support the patient in case there is a sway to either side. B. Backward walking. The 3-minute backward walking test can be useful as a screening tool to identify geriatric individuals carrying a risk of fall. Motor and sensory examination. A detailed motor and sensory examination is essential to diagnose motor weakness and sensory deficits contributing to falls. A. The timed up and go test, TUG. It is a simple, validated test of gait and balance. The patient is instructed to rise from a chair with armrests, walk 3 meters, turn around, walk back, and sit down using any usual ambulation aids and walking at a normal pace. The maneuver should be timed. A time of greater than 14s is associated with impaired functioning and high risk for falls. Qualitative evaluation is also important. Imbalance, hesitancy, and lack of fluidity with chair rise, walking, turning, or sitting down are considered abnormal. B. Investigations. Investigations are directed towards specific cause. Treatment of gait disorders. The treatment of gait involves the following. A. Treatment of osteoarthritic pain. Paracetamol, acetaminophen, is preferred to use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. B. Nutritional support. Vitamin D supplementation in doses 700-1000 U.D. can improve muscle strength and postural balance. Treating nutritional deficiencies in B12 and thiamine might also help peripheral sensory deficits. C. Physiotherapy. Physiotherapy prevents deconditioning and deformity in bedridden persons. To improve gait and balance, physiotherapy is recommended. Balance exercises address postural sway, weight shifting, strength, and speed components. D. Gait aids can be useful even as a temporary measure to provide stability while patients are rehabilitating. Examples are parallel bars, walkers, front wheel, standard or pickup, 4-wheel, axillary crutches, forearm crutches, and height adjustable quad canes. E. Control of underlying neurological disorder. Parkinsonian gait needs a stepwise increment in drug dosages and proper selection of class of drugs for a maximum benefit. 6.4 Vertigo. Dizziness, vertigo, disequilibrium, lightheadedness are the complaints with significant overlap and are commonly noted in geriatric neurological practice. It is important to distinguish between 3 important and distinct symptoms: vertigo, syncope, and ataxia. Vertigo is hallucination of movement and can be of central or peripheral origin. A. History. Primary symptoms are vertigo, impulsion, epilepsy, ataxia, hearing symptoms. Secondary symptoms include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue, headache, visual symptoms. B. Triggering or exacerbating factors, change in position of head or body, repetitive or rapid head movements, coughing, nose blowing, sneezing, straining, using elevator, certain exercises, escalators, fasting, alcohol, boat, air or car travel. 6.4.1 Dizziness and its correlates. Let us learn more about the various terminologies, symptoms and their mechanisms. The same have been summarized in Table 6.3. Table 6.3, Vertigo and its correlates. Look at the screen. 6.4.2 Central. 6.4.3 Examination of a case of vertigo. It is very noteworthy to mention here that a detailed clinical evaluation, including general examination and systemic examination, is important in making the right diagnosis, as described below in Table 6.5. Table 6.5, Examination of a case of vertigo. General examination test. Orthostasis check BP in sitting, supine and after 3 minutes of standing. Fall in systolic BP more than 20 mm Hg. Arrhythmia, pulse rate, rhythm, missed beats, apex pulse deficit. Balance assessment. Observe gait as per above mentioned points. Eyes closed, tandem Romberg patient stands with feet close together. Test. Pulsion and retropulsion. Otologic examination. Hearing tuning fork tests, audiometry. Tympanic membranes otoscopy. Neurologic examination. Cranial nerves check for cranial nerves mainly 2, 3, IV, V8. Long tract signs muscle tone. Same position as the other limb. Nystagmus assessment. Vibration test with a tuning fork. 128 Hz, vibration tested on bony prominences. Dix, Hallpike positional test. Perform the test as per the figure given below. Valsalva test. Hyperventilation. Hallpike's maneuver. It is a clinical test to bring out vertigo. The learner is referred to Unit 5 for further reading. 6.4.4 Treatment of vertigo. Treatment of vertigo has three components. X. Vestibular rehabilitation. X. Drug treatment. X. Treatment of cause. X. Vestibular rehabilitation. A. The Epley procedure. B. Grants. The adverse effects. Please see the Table 6.6 for details of anti-vertigo drugs. Table 6.6. Medications used for the treatment of vertigo. Look at the screen. B. Treatment of the cause. For some etiologies, surgical treatment may be the only option left. In Meniere's disease, transmastoid labyrinthectomy, or partial vestibular neuroectomy, or endolymphatic sac decompression may be needed. In case of vestibular, cerebellar, space-occupying lesions, surgical resection has to be carried out. 6.5 Falls. Falls are an important geriatric syndrome. Let us learn more about falls in elderly. Definition and incidence. Falls are defined as the sudden, involuntary transfer of body to the ground and at a lower level than the previous one. Recurrent falls. The term is used to describe more than 2 falls in 6-month duration. As per a large study conducted in South India, 13% individuals more than 60 years of age reported at least one fall in the past 1 year, with a higher proportion in females. Settings. Falls occur in all settings: community, nursing homes, hospitals. Factors associated with falls. A. Extrinsic, environmental. B. Intrinsic, organ system abnormalities contributing to postural control. C. Situational, risk-taking. Aging changes contributing to falls. A. Reduced muscle mass, sarcopenia. B. Reduced visual acuity. C. Changes in the nervous system. D. Frequent orthostatic hypotension. Causes of falls. The causes of falls are multifactorial. As a result of age-related changes, disease or adverse medication effects, the sensory motor and balance systems may be impaired. Predisposing to falls. Box 6.1. The evaluation of the cause of fall remains pivotal in the process of treatment. Improper and inadequate assessment might result in recurrence of the fall, as in case of a stroke or postural hypotension. The causes of falls have been elaborated in Fig 6.4. Box 6.1. Impairments predisposing to falls. Look at the screen. Fig 6.4. Causes of falls. The following must be inquired for getting more insight into the causes of falls. A. History of fall. In elderly individuals, falls can occur during any time of the day, but the number of falls are more during night hours and early morning hours. Certain situational factors also come into play, like the use of assistive devices, alcohol abuse and risk-taking. Behavior. Environmental hazards also contribute to increased number of falls. B. History of mobility impairment, injury, frequency, circumstances of prior fall. Current mobility function, ability to perform ADLs, IADLs, need for assistive device, ability to walk outdoors, indoors. Exercise status. C. Review of medical diagnosis. Chronic medical diagnosis: hypertension, diabetes mellitus, neurological disorders must be reviewed in details. D. Medication review. Psychotropic medications, history of taking antidepressants, benzodiazepines, antipsychotics, other sedative hypnotics should be inquired into. Consider potential side effect associated with anti-seizure, antihypertensive, ACE inhibitors, centrally acting like clonidine or alpha blocker like prazosin, or anticholinergic medications. Reducing the polypharmacy is also required to prevent drug-drug interactions. A. Physical examination. Physical examination of various systems must be performed. I. Cardiovascular examination, pulse, heart rate and rhythm, carotid sinus testing. Blood pressure measurement in supine. E. Neurological examination, including muscle strength, proprioception, vibratory sense, light touch, Romberg test, reflexes, tests of cortical, extrapyramidal, and cerebellar function. Lower extremity joint and foot exam. Leg length measurement if indicated. cognitive screen, mini mental state examination, clock drawing, performance evaluation. In this type of evaluation, certain activities are performed as mentioned below in the patient's ability to perform these tasks is analyzed. Timed up and go test, tug, rise from chair without arms, walk 3 m distance, turn, walk back, sit down, turn head and look up, reach, bend, resist sternal nudge, walk, over obstacles, ability to walk while performing other tasks, talking, carrying water, doing mental calculation. An assessment scale, performance-oriented mobility assessment, POMA. For mobility problems that includes gait and balance evaluation using simple devices like a hardwood chair, has been designed by M. E. Thinetti. The learner can utilize it for a detailed patient evaluation. 5. Complications and treatment. The complications of falls are injuries, hospitalization and disability. X injuries. 1. Painful soft tissue injuries. 2. Brain injuries, subdural hematoma. 3. Fractures, femur, forearm bones, ribs. X hospitalization. 1. Complications of immobilization, urinary infection, deep venous thrombosis, bed sores, hypostatic pneumonia etc. 2. Risk of iatrogenic illnesses, hospital-acquired infections. 3. Financial disability. 1. LM mobility due to physical injury. 2. Depression. Treatment of falls. Patients can be managed well using a multi-speciality and multimodality method as described below. Falls clinic. At institutional or nursing home level, a fall clinic comprising of consultants from specialities like neurology, orthopedics, physiotherapy, ophthalmology in addition to geriatric services can be of immense usefulness. Patients with falls have difficulty in consulting multiple specialists, and falls clinic caters to their needs all in one roof. The following are treatment principles. X multifactorial intervention is effective rather than single approach. X correction of vision deficits. Correction of unilateral vision loss should be encouraged to enhance mobility, particularly if the fall is related to tripping or change in depth. Maximal lighting in the home with reduction in glare should be encouraged. Consideration should be given to switching from bifocal to distance lenses, particularly if a fall has occurred on a stair, ramp, or curb. Neck problems aggravate visual disability. X treatment of cardiovascular abnormalities. Carotid sinus syndrome is often missed in unexplained falls, even in the absence of a history of syncope. Use of a pacemaker in older adults with unexplained falls and cardio-inhibitory carotid sinus syndrome has been shown to decrease falls. Treatment of symptomatic orthostatic hypotension is required with omission of offending drugs. Addition of electrolytes and drugs like fludrocortisone. X medication review. Polypharmacy has to be reduced to the minimum possible list of medicines. X vitamin D replacement. Vitamin D replacement in deficient cases decreases falls and improve body sway. Vitamin D supplementation has also been shown to improve functional status. About 700-1000 U vitamin D per day is recommended for older adults. X implementation of exercise program. A weekly exercise schedule incorporating aerobic training, muscle strengthening, especially of lower limbs, and balance training with daily home exercises can prevent falls to a great extent as per the Frailty and Injuries, Cooperative Studies of Intervention Techniques, FICSIT. Initiation of exercise therapy must be under supervision of a geriatric physiotherapist. Walking has been shown to improve endurance and quality of life for patients with osteoarthritis and peripheral vascular disease. X use of assistive devices. The use of an assistive device may decrease fear of falling and improve mobility. Patients who have sensory loss, visual, vestibular, or proprioceptive, may benefit from the use of a cane, which decreases sway. Other aids include 4-prong canes, hemi-walkers, 2-wheeled, 3-wheeled, and 4-wheeled walkers, often with a seat, and standard walkers, 4 legs, no wheels. A hemi-walker is often useful in the setting of a cerebrovascular accident, CVA. The 3-wheeled walker provides more stability than a cane without significantly limiting dexterity of movement. For patients with more marked mobility impairment, a 4-wheeled walker, which is heavier and more stable, may be preferred. X. Home safety individualized assessment of home by a trained occupational therapist or physiotherapist, using a safety checklist, is recommended. X. Use of appropriate footwear. Foot position awareness and balance improve with the use of firm, thin-soled shoes and low, rather than high, heels. Loose-fitting slippers or sandals should be avoided. X. Behavior modification. A specific fall risk assessment should be carried out and high-risk activities explained to the patient. Emphasis must be laid on increasing attention to mobility tasks. X. Use of hip protectors. Hip protector pads are useful in long-term care setting. Use of hip protectors has been shown to decrease fear of falling among community living adults. Poor compliance may limit the use. X. Bone mineral density monitoring. Older adults at high risk for falls should undergo evaluation and treatment for osteoporosis. Treatment is advised when the T-score is below -1.5. Home and behavioral adaptation. Treatment of injuries resulting from falls is associated with many challenges. It is most beneficial to be in anticipation and take corrective steps in order to reduce, if not eliminate, the chances of fall at home. In terms of cost-benefit ratio, the expenses incurred in architectural alterations are far lesser than the expenses after an injury. Many companies have brought up an entire range of products for safer homes. The modifications that can be made in the house and the behavioral adaptations to reduce falls are summarized in Table 6.7. Table 6.7, Home and behavioral adaptations for specific deficits related to falls. Adaptation-specific deficits where adaptation likely to be of benefit: clear flow of clutter, decreased foot clearance, decreased vision, decreased depth perception, CVA with one-sided neglect, dementia. Adaptation-specific deficits where adaptation likely to be of benefit: increased chair and toilet height, muscle weakness. Provide arms for chairs, rails for impaired balance with chair rise. Toilet motor apraxia. Increased lighting, decreased glare, cataracts, decreased vision, proprioceptive loss, increased stair safety, provide decreased vision. Railings on both sides, mark edges, proprioceptive loss, of steps with contrasting tape, muscle weakness. Decreased foot clearance, move kitchen, bedroom, and neck osteoarthritis. Commonly used closet items to vestibular deficit. Shoulder level Parkinson's disease. Avoid multitasking, dementia. Decreased vision, psychotropic medication use. Use of modern technology in prevention of falls in elderly. 1. Whole body vibration device. A metal platform under which motors were mounted to create vibration, up and down, amplitude, and side to side. Designed to simulate gravitational pull-in. Create an unbalanced situation that forced users standing on the platform to adjust involuntarily in order to achieve balance. WBV also caused the muscles to fire at different frequencies, thereby taxing muscle strength. 2. Ankle foot orthotics, AFO, which can enhance stability when standing and walking and sometimes correct physiological problems. 3. Remote monitoring systems, location monitoring and alerts for wandering out of designated safe zones. 4. Automatic wearable fall detectors. Automatic detectors use accelerometers to detect a fall's impact and tilt sensors and/or gyroscopes to determine a person's position after the fall. 5. User-activated alarms and pendants. These devices require users to activate an alarm button on a pendant or bracelet integrated with a wireless transmitter. 6. Devices under development. 1. Video monitoring-based fall detectors. 2. Flow vibration-based fall detectors. 6.6 Dementia. Dementia is a geriatric syndrome, characterized by multiple cognitive deficits resulting in a decline from previous level of function. It is defined as sustained loss of cognitive functions and memory of sufficient severity to cause dysfunction in daily living. 6.6.1 Risk factors and pathophysiology. Numerous risk factors as mentioned in the table 6.8 below are implicated in the causation of dementia. Extensive research is being conducted worldwide to elicit the pathophysiological process in patients with any of these risk factors. Table 6.8, Risk factors and major dementia disorders. Risk factors for dementia: major disorders with dementia. Physiological aging, genetic Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's Apolipoprotein E4 gene mutations disease multi-infarct cerebral vascular depression metabolic lack of disease Huntington's disease head exercise medical disorders injury HIV hypertension obesity hyperlipidemia smoking 6.6.2 clinical features. The common clinical features of dementia include X memory loss, X difficulty concentrating, X word finding difficulty, X confusion about time and place, X mood changes. Assessment tool. Mini Mental Status Examination, MMSE, is a simple and reliable tool for assessing the severity of dementia. 6.6.3 Treatment of dementia. The treatment of dementia involves both pharmacologic and non-pharmacologic methods, as described below. 1. Pharmacologic. No drug can cure dementia. Drugs only alleviate the symptoms and/or halt the disease progression to some extent. Below given table 6.9 summarizes the drugs used in the treatment of dementia. Table 6.9 Medications used in the treatment of dementia. Look at the screen. 2. Non-pharmacologic. Lifestyle modification, diet and exercise. Cognitive stimulation therapy, improving cognition through various games, puzzles, etc. Reminiscence therapy, talking with your loved one about their hometown, school days, etc. For a detailed account on dementia, please read the unit on cognitive impairment and dementia, Unit 3 of Block 4 MME 105. 6.7 Delirium. Delirium is an organic mental disorder of acute onset characterized by concurrent disturbances of consciousness, attention, perception, thinking, memory, psychomotor behavior, emotion and sleep-wake cycle. Risk factors. The risk factors for delirium can be pre-existing or may arise during treatment of other morbidities. The below table 6.10 lists the modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors implicated in the causation or aggravation of delirium. Table 6.10 Risk factors for delirium. Look at the screen. Pathophysiology. It is not fully understood and different pathogenic mechanisms may operate in the causation. Inflammation, drug-related events and acute stress reaction can lead to disruption of neurotransmission which culminates in delirium. Clinical features. Delirium can present in any of the forms mentioned below. Hyperactive delirium, restlessness, agitation, hallucinations and delusions. Hypoactive delirium, lethargy and sedation, generalized slowing. Mixed overlap of both features. Clinical tool for assessment, confusion assessment method, CAM. It is an evidence-based tool that can be used by clinicians to recognize delirium quickly. It is also useful in differentiating delirium from other causes of cognitive impairment. It takes into consideration the following parameters: acute onset, inattention, disorganized thinking, altered level of consciousness, drowsiness, memory impairment, perceptual disturbances, psychomotor agitation, psychomotor retardation and altered sleep-wake cycle. The diagnosis of delirium by CAM diagnostic algorithm requires the presence of acute onset and inattention along with either disorganized thinking or altered level of consciousness. Treatment. Treatment of the cause is the mainstay. Drugs like haloperidol, olanzapine can be used to control the symptoms. Please read the unit on delirium and coma, Unit 6 Block 4 MME 105 for further elaboration. 6.8 Urinary incontinence. In the following subsections we will learn about the definition, types, complications and treatment for urinary incontinence. Definition. It is an unintentional loss of urine due to inability to voluntarily control the flow from urinary bladder. Types of urinary incontinence. There are 5 main types of urinary incontinence as per the clinical presentation. Complications. The following complications can result from incontinence: social isolation and depression, skin irritation and pressure ulcers, falls and resultant injuries related to rushing to get to a toilet. Treatment. In some cases, urinary incontinence is curable, whilst in others, it is definitely controllable. If not curable, exercises to maintain strength and tone of pelvic floor muscles, timed bladder emptying and double voiding to prevent residual urine, antimuscarinic agents, adrenergic agonists, surgical intervention, bladder neck suspension or sling surgeries as per indication. For a detailed explanation on urinary incontinence, Please read Units 1 and 3, Block 1. MME 106, 6.9 Immobility. Immobility is common in elderly. Let us learn more about it in the following subsections. Definition. Mobility is the ability to move one's own body through space. Immobility is the inability to move about and has physiological, social and psychological aspects. Causes of immobility. Immobility has a multifactorial etiology. Fig. 6.6 depicts the important causes of immobility. For a detailed account on each of the causes, the learner is referred to the respective sections. Fig. 6.5, Causes of immobility. Look at the screen. Treatment. Treatment of immobility is focused at treatment of the underlying cause. It involves integrated management by a team comprising a geriatric physician, an orthopedician, and a physiotherapist. Complications of immobility. There are acute and subacute, chronic complications of immobility and involve several body systems. Patient can develop one or more complication at a time. The classification of complications of immobility are represented in Fig. 6.7. Fig. 6.7, Classification of the complications of immobility. Look at the screen. Prevention of immobility. Immobility is definitely preventable and every step should be initiated in this direction. In the hospital setting, the nursing staff can assist the patient, and in the home-based setting, the patient and caregivers can jointly achieve this goal. Immobility can be prevented by taking care of the following. 1. Frequent body repositioning. It is mandatory to change body position during hospitalization. It is easy in case of awake and lean patients. In case of obese and drowsy, stuporous patients, 3 or 4 assistants may be required. For ICU patients, one can follow the ABCDE protocol. A. Awake. B. Breathe. C. Choice of sedation. D. Delirium. A. Early mobility. Repositioning in chair is the new recommended method, wherever possible. In patients who have altered mental status or inability to sit, several protocols for position change have been recommended. Body position should be changed every 2 hours. Beds that have automated tilting mechanism can prove useful. 2. Bed sore prevention. Bed sores can be prevented by following. A. Pressure relieving mattress surface. Air bed or water bed minimizes the friction between body and hard surface. The pressure points remain cushioned, preventing skin ulceration. B. Daily skin inspection. The skin must be inspected daily to diagnose early abrasions or excoriations of the skin. If adult diaper is being used, the skin in contact with the edges of the diapers should be especially cared for, as friction leads to ulceration. 3. Bowel care. Measures for a good bowel habit are: A. Ensuring adequate fluid intake. B. Inclusion of raw fruits and vegetables in the diet to provide roughage and maintain stool volume. C. Stool softeners. Isabgol, basil seeds are natural substances that are inexpensive, inert and help in soft-formed stools. Bisacodal is another option. Enema is advised only in refractory cases. 4. Bladder care. Remove Foley's catheter as soon as the need is over. If prolonged catheterization is needed, siliconized catheter should be preferred over latex one. In males, condom catheter is a feasible alternative. Encourage the bedridden patients to empty bladder at frequent intervals leads to reduced incidence of urinary tract infections. In patients with incontinence, bladder drills and pelvic floor exercises improve the outcome. 5. DVT care. Adopt the following for DVT care. A. Promote limb movements in bed. B. Use elastic stockings. C. Initiate low molecular weight heparin and fractionated heparin as per the clinical condition. D. Ensure good hydration. Inadequate hydration leads to dehydration, orthostatic hypotension and constipation. Frequent intake of water and fluids like milk, buttermilk, coconut water and juices must be encouraged. A. Regular physiotherapy. The crux of management of an immobile patient. There are almost no contraindications of physiotherapy in elderly patients. F. Prevent orthostatic hypotension by slow elevation from supine to sit to stand, and daily leg dangling in bed. 6. 10. Frailty and sarcopenia. These are 2 common conditions encountered with aging. Let us learn more about them in the following subsections. Definition: frailty is a clinical state of decreased ability to maintain homeostasis, that is age-related, and centrally characterized by declines in functional reserves across multiple physiologic systems leading to impaired ability to cope up with stress, increased vulnerability to diseases and functional decline. The prevalence of frailty increases with age. In people above 65 years it is about 10.7%, and in persons above 80 years it increases to 15.7%. Objective definition: Linda Fried et al., Johns Hopkins University, USA have included the following parameters to objectively define frailty: weight loss, weakness, low grip strength, walking speed, reduction, exhaustion, self-reported, low physical activity. Frail, greater than equals 3 criteria. Pre-frail, 1 to 2 criteria. Non-frail, 0 criteria. Pathophysiology: multiple etiological factors have been implicated in the causation of frailty as follows. 1. Reduced food intake, social, economic, dental issues, psychiatric disorders. 2. Reduced muscle mass, lack of exercise, osteoporosis, poor nutrition. 3. Systemic diseases, diabetes mellitus, chronic heart disease, chronic kidney disease. Systemic malignancy, chronic painful musculoskeletal disorders. Sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is the excessive loss muscle mass. Metabolism of IGF-1, testosterone, and cytokines are instrumental in causing sarcopenia. Sarcopenic obese or the fat frail. Some individuals remain fat in spite of losing muscle mass. Their body composition is mainly fat with a significant loss of muscle. There is infiltration of muscles with fat, leading to weaker muscles. These individuals have a relatively higher risk of disability and mortality. Manifestations: frailty. The common symptoms and signs are reduced appetite, weight loss, muscle wasting, and other features of underlying disorder. Interventions for treatment and prevention of frailty. Exercise and pharmacotherapy have been found to be two interventions that have helped both prevention and treatment of frailty. Exercise. The most effective treatment known till date is exercise therapy. Exercise improves oxygenation and perfusion of all the body organs. Muscle strengthening exercises assist in maintaining the muscle mass. Impairment. 8. Physical disability. Pharmacotherapy. Studies are ongoing in an attempt to formulate a drug regime for the treatment of frailty. Testosterone, VID, ACE inhibitors are all being evaluated. The risk versus benefit ratio must be considered before initiating any such therapies. Multidimensional approach is essential to prevent further decline in health of elderly. Complications of frailty. Frailty results in progressive decline in body function. The following complications can occur if corrective measures are not undertaken: falls, repeated hospitalization, multimorbidity, disability, death. 6.11 Summary. You have acquired knowledge of the major components of geriatric syndromes and also known that there is significant association of one factor with the other. Gait. Abnormalities should first catch your eye as soon as the patient enters the geriatric clinic. An experienced geriatrician can easily identify gait abnormality and point towards the underlying disorder.